right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the SAP. As always, your boy Dave Neal with Tasha Courtney and
Hello.
Anthony Amorello.
Hey.
Welcome.
Crushing beers tonight. We got a New Englander in the house.
Thanks for having me.
We always go. I can't. Is this my ears? Can you hear yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, it was just me. All right, let's get right into it. I appreciate you coming over here. I like to get to know every New England comic I've ever met. That's how I like to work my way through them. So tell us what's your New England your New England background? What's going on? Your family been there for a while?
Yeah. I'm from Worcester, Massachusetts, which is literally the heart of Massachusetts. They have hearts on all their street signs because we're the heart of Massachusetts.
Wow.
What's the highway? The 270? What's that highway?
290.
290. There it is. See?
290.
A little bit of street cred. You get all the snow that Boston doesn't get. Like,
Yeah.
if Boston gets 3 inches, you guys get a foot.
Yeah, because Worcester's also like a valley. It's Seven Hills is like it's terrible weather-wise. But yeah, my family, literally like 93% of my family lives there. Like me, I live here in Los Angeles. My sister, her husband and kid live in San Diego. There's like 7 people that live in Florida. Everybody else lives in Worcester. My great-grandfather came here in 1915, had 10 kids, started a business.
From Italy? Was he from Italy?
Yeah, and that's only because his dad had 1 kid with his wife and 19 with a mistress, guys.
The same mistress?
Wow.
One mistress.
Holy, that seems like that's like a NFL wide receiver move right
Yeah.
there.
Wait, did the wife know about the mistress? Was the mistress like a secret? There's no way you have 19 kids with somebody and keep it a secret.
The
right?
joke is, at what point does the wife become the mistress?
Yeah.
You know, because like 19 to 1.
But back in those golden
it's-
years, you didn't have the internet to blow up your spot. You just swept shit under
This
the rug.
was your
Well-
great-great-grandpa? Or your...
my great-great-grandfather is the one that fathered these children. My great-grandfather was one of the 19 bastard kids.
But
I would love to read their diaries.
This all just came out because my grandfather just passed away, and he was the last of his generation. So now I'm just like hearing stories, like, you know, people tell stories at funerals and after death.
And everyone has their own version of events, too.
Yeah, this has been pretty well documented, though.
Funerals are just like podcasts that they don't record. You know what I mean? They're like, we could have used this information before, Grandpa. Like this would have been awesome to know your street
you
cred.
learn so much about your family members. Like at my grandma's funeral, I mean, there was stuff that I knew, but I didn't really know. Like I had been told at such a young age that my grandma worked on the planes in World War II. I didn't know what that meant
But that's
until
why,
now.
I feel like having a terminal illness might be the way to go, because then you can maybe get those stories out while you're still on your deathbed or something.
Well,
I feel like that's the way I would
I
want
think
to be.
that's what people are thinking about, though.
That's what, so my grandfather passed away. He was fighting Parkinson's and cancer. So, we knew it was coming. And I've lived out here for the last 4 years. So every time I went home, I spent a lot of my time with him, and I was literally just pulling every story I can. And I know a great amount about my family, which is nice because I think I know about certain things that a lot of people in my family don't know, or at least his version of it. But it's nice to find out that stuff, and it's interesting. I would have never have known about the 19 bastard children, all 19 of those kids got sent to different orphanages. They never saw each other again.
Wait.
Oh, they never. That's interesting.
They didn't raise these kids?
I have to imagine this woman passed away from giving birth.
Okay.
19 births in 1900. There's no C-sections. There's no medicine. And back then you only lived to, I think I looked it up, women only lived to about 35. 19 pregnancies is 14 years of birth. You know, so she had to be 15.
And not only 19 pregnancies that go full term. I mean, there's plenty of you go a couple months, whatever. Do I need to get the bug zapper? This fucking bug's going to be. Should I get I might have to get the fucking bug. It's going to hit me all. We got a whole another hour. If that bug comes back one more time, I'm getting the zapper
All right, okay.
on air. But that's insane that you didn't find that out. And that's also, were you raised Catholic?
Yeah. So my dad's side of the family is Catholic, and my mom's side of the family is Armenian Apostolic, which is Christian, but it's Armenian Christian, like Greek Orthodox. Like, I like this. The service is 3 hours long in an Armenian, but we believe in God. It's nothing.
No, the
Do you guys
Catholics go
have the
45.
fun, fancy stuff like the Catholics have, like incense and chants and all of that?
We have the most incense. Armenians love the incense, dude. But yeah, I was raised to believe in God. I went to Sunday school my whole life, and then I went to an all-male Catholic high school for 4 years. So I have Jesus within me.
Now, the all-male Catholic high school, that I've heard from guys that did go to like an all-male Catholic high school that it was a great experience. Were you
I loved it.
Because you don't have to worry. Because for me, growing up in a high school, like we were looking at the girls' thongs. We call them the whale's tails.
Yeah,
but nonstop looking at thong. We're in math class and there's like thong. Everyone's thongs up their ass. Like I can't imagine the level of distraction you didn't have.
Yeah, it was a lot of testosterone. It was a lot of like being in a green room at a comedy show where everybody's just roasting each other back and forth, and even like the teachers are in on it because it's literally like I think we probably had 4 female faculty members and the rest was just dudes. And
any cute ones? Because that must have been a hostile environment.
There was one good-looking teacher when I was there. She was only there for like a year because she married a doctor. She was did not need teaching anymore. But she was cute, and I remember this kid got expelled because he was in her homeroom and she asked what the rules were for dress down days because we obviously had a uniform and it was really strict. But dress down days were still like you couldn't wear sweatpants, like you couldn't like baggy clothes wearing in like basically jeans and a polo. But she asked, and he said, that's where we all come in naked, and gave the wink, and that does not fly at Catholic school.
How progressive of your
got
Catholic
expelled.
school.
In my community, Catholic school was where you went when you got expelled from public school.
Yeah.
So Catholic school was like all the bad kids. Like that was where like there was a ton of drug use and like dealing. Like if you were buying weed in Kentucky when I was in high school, you were getting it from one of the kids at the Catholic school.
I was supposed to go to
those are
Catholic
the ones
school.
that aren't getting arrested because they go to Catholic school.
Yeah,
Nobody's
their parents
watching
are
them.
rich. They got good lawyers.
How are you meeting the ladies?
Yeah.
How are you meeting? How are you school dance like mixed dances?
So here's the thing. Worcester is about 100,000 people. It's the second biggest city in New England. St. John's, the school I went to, most parents want their daughters to marry a St. John's grad. Like that is like the epitome of Worcester is St. John's.
Oh, so you get the parents' approval.
Yeah. Oh, you are in like Flynn when it comes to parents. Parents are the least of your worries. Also, St. John's, and it kind of got messed up at the end of my like. I don't. You guys are a little bit older than me. I'm 28. How old are you guys?
Older. I'm
Yeah.
30. I'm almost 35. Tasha's between us.
Okay.
Put it nicely.
I think my 28 is probably the last time where you could really like get away with a lot of stuff before everything. This is what I'm saying. We used to have school dances and only St. John's guys could come, but any girl under the age of 18 could go. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Nice.
So it would be like 3,000 people in a gym. There are 1,200 boys, 1,500 girls, and everybody would just, like, all the faculty would be outside
So
of the
the
gym.
girls didn't have to be somebody's date. It was
no.
open call for girls.
Oh, you're feeling up
it
on
was
the
a
dance
cattle
floor.
Call. It was a cattle call. That's what it was.
You got the boners on she got the velvet dress on. You got the khaki boner hitting up against the thigh. Don't look at me, Tasha. This is how it works.
Yeah, that is how it works. And not only that, you have the testosterone of you're going to see these guys on Monday, and everyone's going to know if you talk to a girl or not. It's a big deal if you don't talk to a girl at an all-guys school.
Dude, I'm so pumped up for this right now. I'm so excited.
But girls would flock there. But then I remember one time, I'll never forget it. This dude, Scott Busada, lovable kid, excellent football player, not the sharpest tool in the shed, had this girl grinding with him, and he hooked his thumbs in, as you call it, the whale tail. and had her thong up in the air as this girl is at a 90-degree angle. And
Well, first of all, was she not wearing a dress? Or are these jeans?
Jeans.
Oh, okay. This was like
Yeah.
a formal dance. Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah, like, and I'll never forget it.
He's doing some tightrope.
Yeah,
work.
and that was probably like the least disgusting thing going on. Like there, you'd find condoms on the floor at the end of the night. But I remember watching this, and then the headmaster of the school, which is like equivalent to the principal, he's in charge, walked in, and he was actually my friend's dad. He's a really good guy, Mike Welsh. And I never seen someone look so appalled. And he stood this girl up right and was like, where are your parents? And then, like, imagine you were like thumbs deep in a whale tail, and then like all of a sudden you're looking a 56-year-old white man in the face. Where are your parents?
It's
Like
some-
that.
Was he
National
asking the
Geographic.
girl or was
The
he
girl.
asking the guy?
The girl. And
That's bullshit.
well, Scott.
She didn't pull her own underwear out.
Well, no, but she definitely let it happen. Scott was getting kicked out. That was like understood.
okay.
But they always
yeah.
they always say like, oh, it's slut shaming, but it's like these guys, they want pussy regardless. And now a girl's gonna back her ass up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like,
She's dancing and having a good time. It's
honey,
a dance. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, because when we'd have these semi-formal dances, the girls would be wearing dresses, short dresses, guys wearing their khakis. For sure, many guys got like vagina juice on their legs, and they would get like stain. This would happen. Not to
yeah.
everyone, but you'd be like, "What's that? Is it? Oh, you
People
were
would
grinding
have-
with that chick all night, and she's got her."
Or sweat.
No, honey,
People are
this isn't how sweat looks. I got the phones are lighting up. Guys are calling in. This happens. I'm not saying every guy's got but it's literally the exact same spot of the thigh from guy. Look, when you're 17, you got one dance move. You're going back and forth. You're letting her do all the moves, and whenever she looks in your direction, that's when you show off your A game. You know what I mean? No guys out there doing a lot.
Can we get a close up on Dave's A game?
You're doing your thing. But if she's looking the other way, that's the thing. If she's backing it up and she's looking the other way, and your buddy, you're, hey, what's going on? I got to go on. But if you take her out of the equation, you're an asshole. You got nothing.
Yeah.
You have no dance move if you take but like while they're there, you look like you know what you're doing.
Did
You're
you
just
ever-
purely supportive?
Did you ever do this? Were you ever in a circle? Like, do you remember dancing with your friends, and each girl would have a guy or a guy would have a girl, and you'd be like in a circle and everybody would be grinding? My cousin Paul used to do this thing where the girl would be grinding and he would be behind her going like this. Just
The one shoulder move?
Yeah, but like with the ugliest face and just like staring all the guys down, and we'd be dying. And then as soon as she looked back, he'd be like, yeah, doing the Dave A game, and she would never know. It was just so disrespectful. But I still do that dance move.
But that's like a guy learning a dance move. It's like if a pitcher has one good pitch. It's like I got a 96 mile an hour two-seamer, and I'm going to throw it every pitch I can. Once in a while, I'll drop in a curveball. No one's chasing it. It sucks. You just stick to that thing you got. There's always that one guy's got that sprinkler move he's doing nonstop, or someone's hitting the floor, or the crip walk. These are 90s dance moves. I don't think people actually do these. But
No, Seawalk is like really big on TikTok.
You called it Seawalk?
That's what you call it on TikTok now. That's the new way that we call
appropriating gang culture.
It's 2020, Dave. Get it together.
TikTok's wild because it's a bunch of teenagers and us. And then I couldn't get my video uploaded because I was posting a stand-up clip and I said dick like 8 times in the bit. I was talking about young dick energy, so I kept on saying dick, and then I kept on getting kicked off, and I go, are they kicking me off for saying the D word? I didn't swear in it, nothing else. I took dick out of the audio and re-uploaded it, and it was fine. Yet there are hard N words on all these songs that they're letting 15-year-old white chicks dance to.
Oh,
what the fuck?
Yeah.
If you're not like making content on TikTok, you're a pedophile. Like, have you noticed
All chicks' tits. They're 15-year-olds with
I
their tits out.
opened that app and I was like, oh, this is not good.
I'm too old
but,
for this.
Yeah, way too old for
It's
this
a
because I'm
pedophile.
not making that
You're right, though.
content.
It's a breeding ground.
It's a breeding ground, but also it is like the harshest, like some of these song lyrics coming out behind 14-year-old white girls in Connecticut, it's almost jarring. You're like, again, where are your
got
parents?
that girl.
But it
What's
is
that girl's name?
interesting.
Charlie D'Amello. Is that her name?
Something like that.
35 million followers. 35. She's 15, and she's you can see it. She's cute. She's whatever. She's doing it. But then she's like just dancing, looking, and then they're playing this like hardcore rap music. And you're like, what the fuck? But that's just
know.
I mean, the app. It's anyway. So the
I
point
had
was
a video
is that,
removed for like I was not wearing a bra, but I was wearing like a compression type tank top. So like you really could not see, like you could not see anything. I've seen way more suggestion of a nipple many times, but flagged for removal.
But the guys can go shirtless. Crazy. I mean, it's a little wild because it's like some Handmaid's Tale shit. Because on one end, it's like we don't necessarily want our teens to like be, or anybody to be just rewarded for their booty shit. But on the app, it's the social science experiment of it all. It's dudes jumping off roofs, lighting their hair on fire, and it's chicks shaking their tits or ass. Whatever the chick has, that's her value. Her eyes, her ass, her tits, her legs. She's doing the can.
You're underselling it a little bit.
But that's what goes viral. Though, so it's like dudes being assholes.
Not necessarily. Listen, there are all sorts of interests that like people are finding really creative ways to highlight their talents on Instagram. It's true.
I do have a point. That like it's not the ugly girls dancing going viral. It's a popularity.
Well, not everyone's dancing is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think plenty of people go viral on there for being funny. I think the majority are viral on there from 54-year-old dudes watching them shake their tits. Like that
it's a perfect example of like growing up. Are you going to be the jock or funny or both? Or are you going to be the hot chick or you have humor, attraction, IQ level? These are the things that like prolong your genetics, right? So like for you were an athlete. When did the humor kick in? Were you just because you were in a high school with all guys that you could just all be one-upping each other, or what? Like how did you when did you learn that you were funny?
Young. I'm from a really big family. You gotta stick out to even like you gotta hit your punchlines to be heard in that family. Yeah. So
and New England's kind of known as also because like you got harsh winters. You have the environments that kind of create sort of a hardness to like I mean you have religion, which always brings out humor because it's like, what are we doing, you know what I mean? Like you have like some sort of like repression there, plus you've got just the harsh winters and sort of this like roast, everyone's roasting each other.
Well, I think what it is was we like my whole entire childhood, probably through my early 20s, was spent literally every weekend just hanging out with 100 of my family members. Like that was it. And when you are with people that long, you know way too much about them. So when they say something, you're going to call them on it. Like nothing's like, if you want to get away with, like if I was to ever say I was taking ballet classes, I would be roasted probably till today about it, Like it's just, it's your especially like the way I look at it, especially for my family, is it is literally like Goodfellas, where you would just come together every weekend and you're eating, you're drinking, you're partying till 2 a.m, and you wake up, you clean up the yard, and you do it again, and it's just roasting. It's like a comics green room again. I feel like my whole life has just been one big green room before a show.
I'm trying to do the math. You're 6 years or maybe 7 years younger than me, so you got Facebook before high school. Is that right? Did you have Facebook? How, I want to know how you were, aside from like seeing girls at the dance, how were you meeting girls, and when did you first like get into the dating kind of sex scene? And before you answer that, I ask because my cousin Tim was from Woburn, which I know is not Worcester, but still sort of like the suburban Boston, New England kind of crowd. And he taught me what a 69 was at a McDonald's by using French fries, and he broke. This is the most Boston thing ever. He broke up French fries into a 69 position. I was such a mama's boy, had no idea about anything sex wise. He showed me like the porn websites. He like had it, he was like my like get laid shaman. And Tim was like getting laid early. We talked about him every other episode. He's even to this day, he's a dad. He's still getting blowjobs in suburban vehicles and stuff. So like there's something about like growing up in a bigger city that I think does help you kind of experiment faster.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. So I knew I liked women at a very young age. Like, I'm talking kindergarten, first grade. Like, I knew I was attracted to that. Also, I had 2 sisters that are older than me, and their friends, when we were in the same school, I'd be like in a single file line for the bubbler or something, and their class would walk by, and all her friends their friends would pinch my cheeks. And so like I knew at a very young age, like, I need to be around women. And then the other thing that happened to me was I grew very fast, very quickly. When I was in 8th grade, I was 5'10", 180 pounds, could grow a beard.
Wow.
Tan as can be. I was dating girls that were seniors in high school. They would come to my house and pick me up, and my sisters would be like, they're my age, and they would get pissed. I lost my virginity pretty young. I hate saying this because it feels like
What's pretty young?
14.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
15 would be young. 14's pretty young. 13's.
I feel like most people in my comings and goings, most people have been between like 16 and 22. Would be like the average. 22 obviously being on the later side, and 16 being on a bit of the early. But I was 14.
But for a guy, 14 is young.
Yeah.
For a woman, 14 is young too. But for a guy, that's young because generally, like a 17-year-old guy might be sleeping with a 15 or 16-year-old. I think there's always just like a 2-year buffer, just with like the girls your age. It's not like you wouldn't sleep with the girls your age. It's just that generally there's older guys that are just a year more developed, more charm, more whatever.
Well,
so that's impressive that you were meeting girls older than you.
Well, I was a grown man at 13. When I was 13 years old, I started paving roads for work, like for my dad. Like that's with 40-year-old men.
Plus,
like,
your beard has there's no skin you can see through. That is the thickest beard I've ever seen. I'm so impressed by it.
I remember one time said, your beard looks like it's made out of asphalt. And there's nothing more accurate than that. But I was around grown men every summer from 13 until I started working there full time. And they would, they're talking like grown construction workers.
Yeah.
So I have an idea of what I need to do with a woman.
They're definitely influencing you in a way.
Yeah, without it, they're giving me the playbook.
Is it like the raunchiest advice?
A lot of it was good advice. There was a lot of bad advice and a lot of disgusting advice. But the thing is, it was my dad's company. And my dad is a very, I also look at my life like Tommy Boy. Everybody loves my dad. My dad is bigger than life. If you deal with my dad, unless you owe him money, you love my dad. I don't know anyone that doesn't.
By the way, Tasha, we're the same person so far. My stepdad's a contractor, and I worked for him. So
really?
So I want to know more about this because I got some of my early sex advice from guys, and the one advice I got from Rob when we worked in the van together. So we'd always be like in an attic because we did air conditioning. So we'd be in an attic. He was introducing me to cassettes of Tupac, and because I didn't have an older brother I didn't, So and he told me I'll never forget. He goes, "You never know what a chick will do unless you ask." And I'm like, that's the most efficient advice you could ever give somebody. And it's so true when it comes to like, hey, you want to fuck? If I just asked, hey, you want to fuck? I would have gotten laid 3 or 4 years earlier than I did. But I was
you would have had consent.
Yeah.
like that is.
How woke was he? Like, you just got to ask. You got to ask permission. It's like,
well,
wow.
That's the other thing. Construction workers are never trying to get a rap. So they know the rules. They're getting consent.
But there is something about the blue collar construction, working on roofs, painting, all those construction jobs. You're doing like the bare, like you're basically all like passing time by having these conversations with other guys. You're sharing stories. You're doing work that's like not like super. I mean, it's like it's a mechanical job. So you're doing work and you're just talking about the past or whatever. So that's great that you were able to have like older guys kind of tell you what's up.
Well, yeah, and like my brother is 6 years older than me, and he works for my dad. He still works for my dad. But I was my dad's youngest. I was the baby. So everybody in the company, and I'm like a genuinely happy guy. Like it takes a lot for me to stay mad, for more than an hour at a time, because I'm just a happy guy. So people wanted to get me fucked up. People wanted to get me laid. People wanted to be around me because I was a good time. And I also looked like I was 22, so you didn't think you were hanging out with a 13-year-old. You know what I mean? But I learned a lot of stuff. And like, it wasn't like my dad his business right now is very professional and very well run. I remember days when he started with 3 people. It was him, his best friend Tommy Farraco, and my aunt Jennifer was driving a dump truck. And that's how he started his business. And now it's to 33, 35 people.
Wow.
He does well. But I remember like working with scumbags because that's all he could afford.
It's people that might have a record. You don't check their record when you
real live gypsies.
Everyone's got.
Have you ever met a real life gypsy?
No, I've watched the reality shows.
Oh, these people. Oh, they are real and they are tricky and they have their own language. They will steal your shoes.
You got to write your Sharpie on everything that's yours. On every screwdriver is your full name, or else it's gone. It's gone.
They taught me great ways to work out without having a gym. The gypsies work out like if you can take a wheelbarrow, right, and you flip it over so the handles are on top. If you can take that wheelbarrow and raise it upright and hold it straight up, you are one of the strongest people I've ever met in my life. It takes a lot to do that. If you can balance a shovel on both shoulders and do squats, you are coordinated and, again, very
You could
strong.
sell some of this gypsy workout advice.
I've worked with a lot of gypsies. They're all bad people, in my opinion.
But yeah, you're right. The hardest job in the world is that like whoever's hiring you, whether it's your dad or whoever, your people are getting close to the minimum wage level. It's not a high skilled job, and it's hard work. And anyone with like a degree or something is just not going to want to do that bullshit.
Well, that's the thing. It's almost looked down upon these days to be a manual labor, to go to a trade school, because everybody goes to college.
I think it's making a resurgence, though, to be honest. I feel like it's getting more and more popular because people want to avoid student debt. They don't want to spend the next 2 to 4 years getting in crippling amounts of debt, and they would rather just learn a trade and start working immediately and making money, because a lot of those jobs are super high paid.
Yeah, a lot of those jobs, especially if you get a union job, you're making $60,000 to $90,000 a year with health benefits and everything like that. But at a certain point when I was working there, you could tell like it was a struggle. Plus, like that when I started there was right before the recession, so it was like a real struggle there, and like you had real salt of the earth people that are like living in trailers, paycheck to paycheck isn't even covering it. And so like I was really lucky where I got to see my dad go from dirt poor to very successful, and I got to live both of those lifestyles. So I think I have a good balance on how things work. But working with those guys really gives you an appreciation for living in Los Angeles.
My gosh.
To be able to do comedy in a podcast.
Isn't it funny?
And
We complain about certain things, which naturally you're going to complain. And then you remember, like, I used to get insulation on me in 140 degree attics, and while I'm sweating, and you would just get stuck to like the walls. You know what I mean? Like, or like you said you worked at like paving roads. Mm-hmm. I mean, how hot is that? You know what I mean?
Asphalt when it hits out of the dump truck is probably 350 degrees. And when it comes out of the silo, probably about 410.
Plus 95% humidity. You're working outdoors. I mean, it's like
14, 15, 16-hour days.
I mean, that's the thing. Like I would love to raise a kid. Not that we have any plans to, but like where the kid's got to shovel the driveway and do some fucking shit that like gets their hands dirty.
There's no way my kid isn't doing that. and this is honest because like if it wasn't for that, if my dad, he could have let me scoop ice cream, you know, he could have let me go work at a deli or Stop and Shop, whatever, dude.
I worked at Newport Creamery, so be careful. I did scoop ice cream, but
you clearly do so much, Dave. You literally are doing YouTube videos and shows and you know what I mean? Like you clearly have the drive.
But yeah, you're right. You learn that from getting up at 6 a.m. where we were talking about this what before the podcast, Tasha, but when we were walking up, how like we could run a marathon tomorrow, but we're gonna pay for it for like 3 weeks or a month. But getting up and doing these blue collar jobs at 6 a.m., you're like, fuck, your body doesn't even move, and then you're just going to do it, and it's great to have that experience when we're here pretending like. And don't get me wrong, creatively, no amount of paving the road is going to make you write better jokes, but it teaches you that like
work ethic.
Yeah,
not only work ethic, but I need to get out of here. I could pave roads the rest of my life with my dad and my brother and be completely happy and live a great life. I want more. I don't want to break my back. I don't want my kids to have to break their back, you know?
So how did you get from that to here? Like, what was the route from paving roads to stand-up comedy in Los Angeles?
So I did go to college for a couple years. I went to Franklin Pierce University. I was eventually asked very politely to leave. I was arrested for inciting a riot, later found not guilty.
Oh my.
What was the cause of the riot? What were we inciting? Was it a Red Sox playoff game? Had to be a Red Sox playoff game.
I don't know about you guys. My college used to do this thing. It was called Spring Weekend. I think a lot of colleges do it. It was the last weekend before finals. And basically, they closed down all the roads in the school. It was a very small liberal arts school in New Hampshire. It was less people that went there than went to my high school. There was only about like 1,100 people that went there. And they'd shut down all the roads. And there are 26 senior housing townhouses. And all 26 townhouses would pick a country and make a alcoholic drink from that country and put it in a kiddie pool.
Around the world, we called it.
Yes, around the world. And,
Hey.
and you would just party for the whole weekend.
Well, give us some examples. What's a country? What are we making?
Like Italy would just be like a pool of wine, just like Carlo Rossi wine, and
Some Caribbean stuff. You'd have some
right. There's a lot of like
vodka, Russia. If you're
right,
White Russians.
just red drink. That's essentially by the 10th shot, you don't even know what
By the
you're
way,
drinking.
statistically, there's someone listening who just got sober and they're fucking getting the shakes right now, dying to go to a college around the world party.
Yeah. So
Honestly, it sounds like a lot of germs.
Tasha never
Yeah.
got to live
Well-
this side of college, and I think she looks at it like like she's at a museum, like looking in at the barbarians. But I think this is would this
you are
interest you?
right. You are completely right. It is a ton of germs. But on the other side, it was way more fun than the downfall of germs. I can
We'll
deal with a cold.
We're gonna survive coronavirus from all the beer bongs we share.
Easy. Yeah.
You kidding me?
I knew someone that got what's that athlete's foot in their throat from a shoot the boot out of a literal boot.
Yuck.
I've
Gross,
shot
right?
the boot out of a literal boot.
That's a rugby thing, right?
Yeah. That was the grossest thing I've ever done in my life.
Was it your own boot?
No.
yeah, sorry.
Unfortunately, it was this dude, Scottish Tom's boot. Yeah, Scottish Tom was about 6'4" and probably showered twice a week. Like, it was not great. And also on our team, when you just shoot the boot was after you scored your first try. I had 2 tries my first game, so it was already very exciting. But anyone that assists you in your score gets to spit in the boot. So, so not only is there spit there, but the boot gets passed around to every teammate, and they pour whatever drink they have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then the captains, this is the grossest part. And I hate to say this because I know somebody in my family is going to listen to
They
this
stick
and
their
judge
balls.
me.
They stick their balls in it.
Yeah, there are a couple pubes in there that I found out, and it was and the whole time though, because you're so jacked up, because there's 30 guys on a rugby team, and the whole time you're about to do this, they're chanting this thing. It's "Hurrah to shoot that boot, hurrah!" And it's just a tribal, just like
Yeah, you're doing like the haka.
Yeah,
I'm ready to shoot the boot. I'm so ready.
you feel like a caveman. You're just like, I am unstoppable. And then the trick is for any young rugby players out there, just tip the boot over your face and let as much of it drip out the sides as you can, and then throw it up in the trash can immediately after. That's the trick.
The more you know.
That was the grossest thing I've ever done in my life, though. But
So back to inciting riots.
Yes.
So you had a
so that
spring
was
weekend.
Yeah. So that is the stage. Everybody is extremely
Hammered.
and New Hampshire, there's a lot of cocaine, there's a lot of psychedelics, there's a lot of drugs there.
Plus, also, when you get hammered in the South, they just drink all the time. They've got bow ties on. They're debutantes. We're talking about like lighting couches on fire.
Yeah.
This is like, riding lazy boys down the stairs. Like, there's a lot of hooliganism happening in New England.
This is especially because it's maybe 2 weeks after the snow melts.
Yeah.
So people are just getting out of their houses, And, I had this. So my ex-girlfriend now, we were dating, and these guys that lived below her, really like we're trying, like kindergarten flirting with her and her roommates, but like at one point they threw their couch out of a second story window.
Told you, Tasha.
Yeah.
Always couches. Couches got to go.
Yeah.
Couches are going on spring weekend.
They like
Who pays for these couches that just fly out of windows?
This is a Boston.
That's what.
This is a Boston Marie Kondo. It's like, it doesn't bring you joy. Light it on fire and throw it out the fucking window.
Well, this is how you pay for the couch. You incite a riot. They would like. Anyways, they did a bunch of stuff, and I was pretty fed up with it. And mind you, in college, and again, I hate saying this stuff because it sounds like I'm like flexing, but I had an actual army of people that would have murdered someone for me.
Of course.
Like I'm talking 70 to 80 people that went to that school would have went to jail for me. So like I was pretty confident. So spring weekend happens. One of my friends gets into a one-on-one fight. There's nothing to do with me until he is on top of this kid and he's really beating him down. And I go to pull him off. The kid he's beating up, his friends think I'm getting in on the fight. They're also the kids that were messing with my girlfriend and her roommates. So I was like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And I had my friend from Worcester there. And I called over my shoulder. I said, Corey, because I knew what was about to happen. And I turned around, and before I could even do anything, Corey jumped over my shoulder and Superman punched this kid in the face. And
Superman punched him.
He jumped, he pushed himself over, and just Superman punched this kid, Ellis Cooper, in the face. I don't know where. I have no problem with Ellis. I'm really sorry you got knocked out that day.
Yeah, statute of limitations.
But
I think you're good, Ellis, right?
Yeah,
subscribe to the podcast.
Honestly, Ellis probably could. Ellis was a big guy. He could probably murder me.
But technically, a Superman punch, leaving the ground, is not good for your actual power of the punch. It looks good, but
yeah, it
probably would have been better to be on the ground and punch him. Use some hips.
It worked. That's all I know. And Ellis went down, and I turned around, and I like chest bumped Corey, and I was like, that was fucking epic, dude. And then we turned around, and there were 60 people ready to fight us. And we were getting backed up because it's just two of us, so we're like backing up.
Trying to order an
and
Uber.
Then they separate us. The mob had a mind, and they separated us, so like it was like 30 on one and then 30 on one. And people were just like running by and like punching me in the head, and then like another person.
Why are all these people?
Cocaine, alcohol.
Spring weekend, New Hampshire.
Do they think
fighting.
that you guys instigated
Live or
it?
die.
Well, that's the thing, that these other kids that I already had a problem with instigated it, and then their friends are obviously going to have their back. It's very primal at that point.
Did you have fraternities?
No. Our school is too small for that.
In our fraternities, it was close to like the mutually assured destruction. Like if you wanted to pick a fight with another fraternity, guys had shotguns. You know what I mean? Like they really did. They had guns, they had trucks, they would show up to each other's place. Like it stopped a lot of bullshit from happening. There'd still be quarrels within fraternities, but like it would be really tense. And then the house gets kicked out, and of course I'm sure that's what, so that was the riot?
Well, no. So what happened was this is a 20-minute story. I have this worked out. I'm not going to do the whole thing. What happened was I eventually got dragged out. My friend showed up, and all hell broke loose. And I got dragged out to like a separate area where nothing was happening. And the campus police came up to me, and they were like, "We saw you start this fight. We're going to take you down." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Look at what's going on." And they turn around, and it is absolutely like car windows being smashed, like people's houses being broken into. Like it was just chaos. And then Ellis, the kid that originally got knocked out, stands up for the first time. And I see my friend, Jamaica, Nick Rodriguez, comes out of nowhere, knocks Ellis out again, looks around, and then just takes off. And it was complete mayhem. And I was like, "Why are you spending your time with me? Like, go fix this." And the cops took off, and I was like, "I'm fucking out of here, dude." So I went, and I was trying to get to the other side of campus, but they caught me. And they caught me, and they trapped me and Corey between townhouses in the woods. And then it was just on the other two sides were people, and they were throwing glass bottles. And at this point, this has been going on for like 2 hours. And like I'm cut up, Corey's cut up, like
some good cocaine they've got here. 2 hours later, they're still throwing bottles.
It was absolute mayhem. And then finally the cops show up and they take us out. Mind you, the whole time I'm in a tuxedo tank top. Tuxedo tank top, and they arrest me, go to jail. But before they arrest me, they go, you can't come back to New Hampshire until your trial date. You can't come back to school. You can't be on the premises. And I was like, fine, whatever. I'm just happy to not be having bottles thrown at me, you know? I was like, but I came here with my friend Casey Green. My friend Casey Green was here. I can't leave without him. I have to bring him home. And the cop flips open his notebook and he goes, oh, Casey Green? Yeah, we caught that kid a couple hours ago. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, he was drinking vodka and NyQuil, and he passed out in the girls' softball field. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And they were like, during a game. And I was like, that's the kind of thing that happened. That's
poor campus police.
Yeah, were they real cops or were they like rent-a-cops?
No, they were rent-a-cops, and they deserved everything they got. Let me tell you.
That's wow. I mean. And then the ladies in these situations, it's interesting because was your girlfriend with you at the time? Are they trying to help you out, or is it just like every guy for his own?
My girlfriend, she showed up as the cops got there. She was like getting food and not being, degenerate and drinking, the whole day without eating. And then she got there as the cops showed up, and then she and my friend Noah were the ones that bailed me out. But actually, at one point, this girl, Jocelyn Leone, I'll never forget her. I've never said a word to her in her life. But in my life, but she saved my friend Corey's life, because at that point where they had separated us to 1 on 30, Corey got hit and he went down, and they were gonna stomp him out, and she dove on top of him and put her body in harm's way, and she does not know Corey, and was like, back off, leave this kid alone. And she seriously saved him from at least getting his face fractured, if not serious brain damage. Yeah. Girls in riots, there are two kinds of them. There are the girls that are saving people, and then there are girls that are breaking bottles and ready to fucking cut
there's
you.
The girls that are like, get him, Timmy. They're like trying to, oh, you're not going to let him push you around like that. And then there's that shrieky, like, no, stop it.
Well, they're all New England girls, so they're like, Colin, get him. Colin, get him. And then Colin gets knocked out, and they're like, bitch, I'm doing this. Bitch, I am doing this. And they have no problem, because they have 9 brothers themselves, you know what I mean? And they know how to fucking fight. And
so that was it. You're out of college. That's it.
Yeah, well, I went to trial, and I pled not guilty.
Did you wear your tuxedo shirt to trial? Did you dress up for this?
No, I was in a shirt and tie, and I met with the DA before the arraignment, and she was like, well, they say, and I was only 20 at the time, so they got me for underage drinking, they got me for the riot, and then school damages. And I was like 21 by the time the trial started. Like, my birthday had just happened. So they dropped the underage drinking charge. And then she was like, so the school damage and the riot. And I was like, you have no proof that I started this. How can you say this is me? It was a little bit, but you can't put the fault of, honestly, 200 people doing $7,000 worth of damage. You can't put that on one person.
Right.
And that's what I explained to her. And she goes, well, why were you getting bottles thrown at you? And I was like, because they wanted to fuck my girlfriend. That's why it was all about these guys wanting to have sex with my girlfriend, me not allowing them, and then it escalated. And she was like, all right.
Not allowing them. What a Boston gentleman. I wasn't allowing them to fuck my lady.
I'm not, well, she did her part too, I should say. But yeah, man, and like, I look back on it and it's sad, because obviously I wish I finished college, but in all reality, I'm way happier with my life now.
That's a great way to exit college.
Yeah,
that's a really great way.
Oh yeah, there are very few people that have gone out more gracefully than that. You know?
So this is probably still what, years before you started stand up?
About a year.
Okay, so then what got you on stage?
So I got kicked out of college. My really good friend was just like a really big drug addict. And his life was crazy. My mom was in rehab.
What kind of drugs? Like Oxy?
Oxys, heroin.
New England was that hard, hard shit. Yeah, everyone was ODing. Still is.
He was like on heroin. My mom was in rehab. My parents were getting divorced. I got kicked out of college. My cousin, who was really like my brother, his dad passed away from cancer. And I didn't know what else to say. I felt like I couldn't move. And I'm looking around and everyone in my life was just so sad. And I was like, what can I do? You know, like, what can I do? And I had always known I liked stand-up comedy, but I really just started watching it to start laughing. And I watch a lot of Ron White. And I was like, I fucking love Ron White. I love the way that guy can tell a story. And I was like, maybe this is something I should try. And winter came, and we snow plowed in the winter. So we'd pave roads spring, summer, fall, and we'd snow plow in the winter. But you get laid off because when it doesn't snow, you just don't work because it's too cold to pave. And my dad was like, well, what are you going to do with your time off? And I was like, I'm going to try stand-up comedy. And I went to the Hideout in Faneuil Hall in Boston.
Oh, yeah. We went there, Tasha. Remember that place?
Yeah.
I think they shut down recently.
I don't know.
It's Faneuil Hall. You go downstairs. They have a nice little like carpet thing area.
I know.
Maybe that was just that show that shut down.
I know that they renovated the venue, and because Chris Nakis ran that room when I started, and then it was given to Sam Ike.
Right, that's who I knew.
Yeah, Sam's a great guy. And then Jack was running it for a bit. I really have lost track.
Did they have an open mic there?
I think they still do there. No, I did an open mic, and I bit the bullet. And I talked about this time I went to San Antonio. I told a story about this time I went to San Antonio, and it was a really crazy story that involves the Alamo and blacking out. And I had told the story, and I had no punchlines. I had no timing. I had no.
It's probably great for an open mic. I feel like punchlines bomb at open mics.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're better off telling a fun story.
And it was a very Boston open mic where half the room was comics and half the guys were at the bar watching the game.
Yeah.
So, but the story got everyone's attention, and it got a couple laughs, and then, being a green kid, I sat down after my 5 minutes and watched the rest of this 3-hour open mic because I was a nice person. And then people came up to me after, and they were like, how long have you been doing this? And I was like, today. And they were like, dude, that was pretty good. And I don't know, you get that feeling. You
Absolutely.
Just get that feeling. And then literally the next night I went and did another one, and I haven't looked back. And I did that for like a year there. And I just, I had to leave, dude. I had to leave Massachusetts because it was becoming heroin town. It was because all my friends were either leaving or they were sad and becoming drug addicts. And I didn't want that, and I didn't need that. So I really just leaned into stand-up, and I moved out here. Girlfriend came with me.
Did she come out with you when you moved here, or did you say I'm gonna go test the waters, and then she came out?
I came here and got an apartment. The plan was always for her to come, but then she came out I think a month or two after she had secured a job here, and then she moved out. So I was really only here maybe 6 weeks before she came out, and we just split up this past November, but we came out here, and I really just leaned into stand-up because of all that stuff, and it's saved my life. I really think it has, because otherwise I might have fallen into a heroin trap. That is such a common thing in New England, and it's disgusting.
It's a beautiful thing what a creative passion can inspire in you.
You see a completely bigger picture. Mm-hmm. You go from, I was paving roads, everything in my life was failing. I'm working 16-hour days, running a jackhammer, 90-degree weather, and then you do comedy and you get that first laugh, and you just get a blast into your future, and you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be like this.
It's like getting it's like a drug that's not bad for your body because you're you're getting the high from something you created versus something you're putting into your body.
It can definitely be bad for your mental.
On the days when you bomb.
Yeah, or when
or ruminate over other people's successes. There's a million ways it can destroy you, but
I host 21 hours of open mics a week. It can destroy you. Let me tell you, that is way too much comedy. I'm actually going to talk to the boss and drop a day, but it can destroy you mentally. But if you do it right and you do it with enough balance, it can be the most beautiful thing.
That's a struggle that we have because I'm always saying, wanting to work harder, and then Tasha's always like, we need to go on vacation, and not even vacation. Like we're trying to do more travel, photo shoots, vlogs, this and that, which is great. Like I want to do that, and so we've had to have these and we had a really nice talk this week where I had to be like, look, I don't not want to do these things, but I've got this thing inside of me that's telling me to run faster all day long.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited to wake up before she does, and I'll like not open the windows and I'll keep it dark just so I can like get some work done and get started on my day because I'm just like fucking nuts like that. And it doesn't always make you succeed any faster. And it's good to know like sometimes you don't have to do 15 mics a week or 21 hours a week or whatever. It's nice to take a little time away so you can like let that space grow, like let that space ruminate of like remembering why you loved it in the first place.
Yeah, without a doubt. I tell people all the time because comics, we all have that ticking time bomb. We need to be. You have that thing, if I'm not working, I don't deserve to be here,
Well, yeah, you're looking around, you're seeing people pass you, you've got to get your, 10,000 hours, and, the only way you do that is by being out and working hard every night.
But there's at a certain point, you just drive yourself crazy and you're thinking about it too much. You have to live your life. You have to go out and enjoy other things. And Bill Burr said this, and I think it was on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and he's like, that's why I got into flying helicopters, because I always need to be doing something. I can't just focus on comedy because I'll go crazy. Because how many times...
And also, where are you going to get inspiration for your comedy when you're just in the comedy club all the time?
Exactly. It just, I think you need to have a balance. I think, obviously, you need to have the drive, but you need to have the balance because otherwise you're gonna go crazy.
It's so funny because today we went to the flower market in downtown, and I was like, I'll go to the flower market. There might be a bit in there. There might be something about going to go buy some orchids downtown where some homeless guys throwing churros at everyone, and we're trying to pick out an orchid.
It's very interesting how you do things based on. There's probably comedy in that, you know what I mean?
It's like you want to find the funny in any situation.
I went to a Fat Joe concert by myself once because I thought that I would get something out of it. Never written a bit about it, but I tried.
But you know what's funny?
You have a good time.
You're having fun. You're experiencing.
We don't think of this too often, but there's a comic I'm thinking of from New England who kind of dropped off the face of the planet here, and he was probably doing 10 to 15 mics a week, and then all of a sudden I think he had some suicidal thoughts, and he went home to his family, and he's got a drug problem, and
I think I know
and you just forget that they exist because they ran really hard, they didn't take care of themselves, and then they're out. So LA will do that. LA will just take you see them, and then they get the fuck out, and it's about the longevity, running the marathon of it all. So being whatever you can do within that week or month to stay healthy.
You've got to find that work-life balance because there's no way to be productive and to be creative because you don't get that creative inspiration when you're burnt out. You have to be taking care of yourself. For me, that means going to yoga or
stretching,
going on a hike, getting enough sleep, eating right. All that stuff is
letting
really
me
important.
cook for you French fries and chili. A lot of Tasha's health. It comes down to me cooking for her. That's what makes her happy. Now, our listeners know I'm not going to skirt over what you had mentioned. You went from an 8-year relationship to single now?
Yeah.
So how did that transpire? How are you dealing with it? What tell us all about that. So and by the way, do you want a water or a Diet Coke or a Tecate? I've got Diet Cokes and waters.
I'll take a water.
Take a water.
Yeah. So Brittany and I met in college. That was the Riot Girl. We met when we were 19. We started dating when we were 20. No, we met when we were 20 and started dating a couple months after. We actually had the same birthday, same day, same year.
You got kicked out of school for her, basically.
I wouldn't say that. She did not tell me to continue throwing punches. That getting kicked out of school, though, definitely put a strain immediately on my relationship with her parents. And that was the first time, like I said, when I was at St. John's, every parent, that high school I went to, every parent wanted me to date their daughter. And this was the first relationship where the parents did not approve of me and actually actively disliked me. But
which, by the way, must be horrible for you because you come from a family where everyone's trying to be loved and be a part of a community, and,
without a doubt,
you've lost their approval over.
Especially because of how much my family accepted and loved Brittany. It was a really hard struggle for me, and also she doesn't come from a small family. She's the oldest of 7. So they're a big family and they're a close, tight-knit group. So I didn't. It was always very weird when I was around her parents because I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Outside of her parents, our relationship for 6.5 years was great. Ups and downs, had each other's backs, but we moved out here. When we moved out here, it was the first time we were going to live with each other. And for those listening at home, I highly recommend you don't move 3,000 miles away from everyone you know and live with somebody for the first time because you don't know things. And it's like they say, don't move in with your best friend.
And it's going to be a challenging transition no matter what, just moving from your hometown.
Right.
Yeah, I never thought about this aspect of it, where you take away this common denominator of your, I mean, it's hard enough to move across the country under any circumstance, but then are you guys leaning on each other? I mean, it must be, the positive would be that you guys can share this experience together, because it can be a hard city to move to.
Yeah, and without a doubt. And we were leaning on each other, but we found out relatively quickly that we wanted to live different lifestyles. I never want to say anything bad about her. I don't have one bad word to say about her as a person. But for me, her cleaning regimen was very like military-esque. And I'm not like, if I had dinner and then, you rinse your plate off, you leave it in the sink, you watch TV for an hour, and then you clean it off, you put it in the drying rack. That's how I grew up. If it was sitting in the sink, I was getting at least a dirty look, if not a silent treatment or a large sigh. Those like passive-aggressive moves where you're not even expressing your feelings, but you're letting yourself known, but you're never taught. We never talked about it.
You're just building bitterness. You're calcifying this resentment. Yeah,
and that was a big problem for us, was communication, and I think the other biggest problem was money, because she has a very good job. She works for it's like the top 3 architecture firms in America as an associate on their graphic designs team. She has a very good job, makes a great deal of money. I am a host at Fourth Wall, and like I like living that comic lifestyle. I kind of like the excitement of, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know where I'm getting my money. I don't know what I'm doing. I like that.
You're basically putting stock into a company that doesn't exist yet, which is your touring career. You're putting stock into a DVD or you're going to sell, or your merchandise or your podcast, all these things that you're actively working on that no one else gets to know about.
Yeah.
You can tell them about it, you can whatever, but no one gets to know about it till you do it. No one's truly going to believe in you on your level until you cash in.
Right. And I think between the lack of communication, my lack of money, and willingness to go get a 9-to-5 job really put a strain. And then her car that I was using to drive Lyft for got totaled. So that was we were already having communication issues and then money issues, and then the car got totaled. So now there was a big strain. And when the car got totaled, I kind of felt like, oh, I think she's out. Like, I could see it in her eyes. You could feel it in her actions. You could read it in her voice. And then after that, her grandfather got really sick, her stepmom's dad, and he passed away. And she went home, and then she came back, and the day after she came back, she goes, hey, I signed a lease on a new place where this is it. And that rocked me because, we had conversations, and the whole thing was I was bad at money. She was bad at communicating. I wanted to talk things out. She didn't know how to vocalize what was going on with her. And she kept saying, work's really busy. Can I talk about it after this project? Can I talk about it after this project? And then she went home. And I think, and I have no way of knowing this, I think her parents had a lot to do with this breakup.
Yeah.
Because she came back, and we never got to have that discussion, which is what I think I resent the most out of this, is I never got my chance to save this. You know, I never got that chance. You just came home, signed a lease.
Bro, we are so similar. I mean, I am so similar to you with this, like, wanting to talk things out and wanting to save things.
Yeah.
And maybe it's good that she didn't give you that chance. Maybe, I mean, I can understand your feeling, but maybe it's good that she kind of just was like, I got to pull the cord on this. But, like, don't...
But, you know, like, or maybe she just went home and it had nothing to do with her parents and she just got some outside perspective. You know, it's hard to see a total picture when you're in the middle of it all.
Yeah, without a doubt.
We've had this... Tasha and I have had very similar situations where we've come close to breaking up, or Tasha's dumped me and I was like, what are we doing? No. You know, like, I feel like we've had this talk where I've got to sell her on what I'm doing is going to provide us way more than some job I'm going to hate every day. But that doesn't always, you know, you can try your best at communicating, and it doesn't mean they don't believe you. I mean, they're just, some people are wired in a different way where if they don't see that you're actively putting money away, and we've had this talk where I started, you know, a retirement account and like things I would have never considered doing because I'm so hyper focused on the short-term goals. But in order to help the relationship, I go, okay, I can still work on my short-term goals, but I can slow down some of my obsessiveness and focus more on us and water different plants, and you can't do that with every relationship. Right. Like, we had a very hard time, Tasha, right? Like,
especially in the beginning, we had a really hard time communicating, and I think the only reason our relationship ended up successful is because we really focused on breaking down those barriers. I do not come from a communicative family at all. I was raised on the silent treatment. Like, that's just how my family runs. They don't talk about their problems. They don't address things. They wait until, you know, it's the straw that broke the camel's back and there's a huge blow up and you never, you know, it was honestly a really traumatizing way to grow up. And I think because I lived that experience, I knew that I wanted to do better for myself and my future and my relationship. But he really had to press me.
I'm Anthony in this.
He had to.
I've had to talk to you and like let you go nuts. I still do.
It's a two-way street that we both wanted the relationship to be successful, but I knew that some of my behaviors were going to have to change, communication being one, and you knew that some of your things were going to have to change too. And it was that compromise that helped us. I mean, we could, like, I need him to be contributing to a retirement account. Sure, I want to believe that, like, the podcast pays off. Advertisers are sending us money.
Well, I got that because she's
on tour,
making her money doing well with modeling, and I had the stand up bit about how the longer I do stand up, the funnier I get. The longer she models, you know, like
But I'm, you know, one of the things that is most attractive to me in a relationship is a sense of security and a sense that my man will be a provider, and so that's been like something that we definitely had to overcome.
We have our friends like Cherub and Mark. He's like a successful screenwriter. They have a beautiful home, and Sammy Michael, he's a lawyer. I mean, it's fucking tough, man. But like, you gotta really, and for people listening, you gotta really look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the night and know, like, whatever you're trying to do, you work as hard as you can to do that, and if the person you're with now can't see that, the next person will. Like you might be tomorrow, you start working on a show or something that gives you this validation that others can see, but in the meantime, you're all underneath that water, that iceberg shit. You're putting that all together right now, and then it cashes in, and it cashes in on a crazy level because you're not building the equity in somebody else's company. You're building it in your own.
Yeah. Here's a lot was just said. I have some bullet points in my head. I think you're both, when you said you both knew you had to compromise, that is, it's not just one person compromising, it has to be both. I don't think either of us were willing to compromise on what needed to be compromised. That being said, everything that she at the end pointed out that was wrong with me, she was completely right. And at the end of the day, when you're broken up with after 8 years, you need to look yourself in the mirror. In the last 4 months, my life has drastically changed in the fact that I'm saving money. I have a bed frame.
Hey, for a comic, that's like a white picket fence.
Being an adult is
you're still so young too.
Yeah, that's.
I started dating her when I was your age, so like I was fucking living on futons or whatever.
But I mean, the time flies. It really does, and there's no better time than now to start working on yourself.
Well, that's the other thing. I have 2 things to focus on in my life now: is myself and comedy. I don't have the craziness of this strain of a relationship, and when I say a strain of a relationship, I still love her. I don't think there'll ever be a time in my life where I don't. It just was too. I think people change over 8 years. When we met, we were 20. You're
a different person. I mean, physically, you do not have the same chemistry that you were. Like, you're a different human.
Is your life on the same trajectory? Sometimes people grow together, sometimes they're ships passing in the night, and sometimes they grow apart. And
exactly. And you have to look yourself, and you have to give it. It's the same thing with comedy. To be successful in comedy, you have to give an honest assessment of yourself. And if you go and you bomb, and then you get off stage and you're like, I fucking crushed that. You're never going to be
a sociopath.
Yeah. You're going to
nailed it.
You're going to be stuck in dark bars the rest of your life paying $5 to do comedy. And it's the same thing in a relationship. If you look yourself in the mirror and you are A, out of shape, B, never do the dishes, C, late on rent, D, clothes on the floor, and you're like, damn, I am a good boyfriend because you put the toilet seat down after you took a piss, you're not being honest with yourself. And you need to look at yourself in the mirror. And that was one really obviously big takeaway from this breakup for me was, okay, I obviously have huge holes and like the other thing is, I want a family. I can't wait to have 4,000 kids. Like, I really am so family oriented, dude.
One with my wife, 19 with
Yeah. Exactly. And if science advances the way that we do, I'll live until I'm 200 and I can just keep pumping puppies out. But
hey, you won't need to do a bringer show. You'll just have a full family audience.
Netflix, you come to my house, we'll set it up. But yeah, man, and like you look, especially because like 20, I think for me anyways, and obviously I'm really close, like looking close, I don't have a perspective where I can see the whole picture, but at past 27, 28, when you start creeping to 30, you start thinking about that family and that bigger picture as not career-wise, a lot more than you did when you were 24 and you were just like, I'm going to only do my career and that's the only thing that matters and everybody else can go to hell, So now I'm worried. Like now I'm like, oh fuck, I'm behind the ball, Like I have these holes. Just having to deal with the heartbreak of this relationship and only have being in 2 relationships in my whole life because this was 8 years and I dated one girl in high school for about a year and a half and those were the only 2 real relationships.
Well, how do you come, because you got into stand-up when you were at a low. How did you start doing stand-up post-breakup? Because that's got to be an incredible hard situation.
Crushing it. Honest assessment.
You do get a good laugh from the audience when you broke up after a year. They go, all right, we'll give you a laugh.
Yeah. I hit up Joe Menente because I was hosting Tuesdays, and I was like, dude. Also, the other thing is when we broke up, she had signed the lease, like I said. So I had 15 days to find an apartment and somewhere to live on a fourth wall host salary of an open mic host salary. So my options were a storage unit or the couch of a 45-year-old Mexican man. Like that's all I had. So I was really like just desperate for money. And I was like, Joe, give me as many hours as you can. And I started doing 3 days a week, doing 21 open mics, and I just buried myself in comedy. And since the breakup in November to today, I'm planning on doing my hour. So I've come up with about 25 in the last 4 months, 3 months, whatever it's been, and I'm gonna come up with the last 35, and then I'm gonna record this in late July. But it opened avenues for me because there's nothing holding me back, comedy wise. I can talk about everything in the relationship that I couldn't before because I'd have to go home and sit next to that person. But now you can be open about everything and you can be honest about everything. And honestly, when you're honest with yourself and you know you have holes, there's so much funny in your holes. You know what I mean? And a lot of it comes out. And I think comedy has really kept me even. It's been tough.
I can't imagine.
2 months after she broke up with me, my grandfather passed away. And that was...
Sorry to hear that.
That was really... I'm named after him. I was very close to my grandfather.
Oh, you got that very funny bit about that. Did you hear that? Do you remember that one on the Moses show? Yeah, you have a very funny bit about going to a funeral of someone that's got your same name.
Yeah, it
that's
is
great.
Daunting.
The Patreon members came to the show. They got to hear it. So you did the Moses show last week.
That was a fun show. But this is also interesting. I think comics are probably the only profession where when you face tragedy in your life, people are like, oh, must be great material.
Yeah, right, yeah.
If my friend John, who works at H&R Block, went through the same stuff I did, I would not be like, I bet you're going to crush numbers this week, pal. like there is... like almost a pressure to come up with stuff, but as long as you keep that pressure out of it, and in comedy you just have to see the bigger picture and honest assessment, and the funny's just gonna flow out, and it's a great way to keep you from listening to The Fray too often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can get real sad after a breakup, but if you're just in comedy clubs, it can help a ton.
Man, you've got a home to go to and just talk to peers. And like you said, it's about being authentic and honest. And when you're authentic and honest on stage, that's like your therapy. I mean, you're able to say, hey, this is the shit that happened to me, versus like sitting on your couch watching Netflix eating ice cream all day.
Yeah. One of my really, really good friends passed away. So that kid that was getting into drugs when I started stand-up ended up passing away a year after I started stand-up from a heroin overdose. And I rocked my world. It was the first... I've been around a lot of death in my life. That was the first death where I was just shook. And I told my dad, and I was like, hey, I'm going to need the rest of the week off. And he was like, no. No. You're coming to work, because if you take the rest of the week off, you're going to go crazy. And you could potentially kill yourself. You're going to come here, you're going to work your ass off, and you are going to take your mind off of it. And the thing is, when you are working and you are focused on, say, paving roads like I was in that week, so much of your brain it connects things, dude. Like, because you're not thinking about it, and it just pops in. That's the answer why this happened.
That's a good dad you got there. That's some good shit.
Saved my life. If it wasn't for my dad, I would be in a bad place. I'll say that.
I got goosebumps hearing that, but it's so right about knowing what your path is, what your journey is, and knowing that like the road continues. And it's what a metaphor that your job was paving roads. And it's literally about you paving your road.
Yeah.
I sound so cheesy saying that, but you know what I mean? It's like your job, and these things, you need to like write a book on like paving roads, because it's like, what's that book, like the Zen of motorcycle repair? There's some book that's like the art of, someone's listening going, you're butchering it, but there's a book about restoring a motorcycle, and it's like and it's just about like learning how to live your life.
Yeah.
And that's why stand-up's a good sort of through line about growing up and expressing yourself, because it's so simple. It's a man on stage, a woman on stage talking and making light of the dark situations. And that's just what you can do along the journey, is just be authentic about it.
I think the motorcycle book is good when you are going through it, and stand-up is good for right after it. Because when you're going through it, you need something to focus on and work on and build.
Yeah, to take your mind off of like, you can't just like wallow in for me, last week, anxiety. For you, your grief, your sadness.
And it's tough here in this studio because we don't have fucking shit to build. We can't go mow the lawn. I mean, we can do the dishes, but
something else to focus on allows your subconscious to make those connections for you.
Well, are you aware of, Tasha, when your anxiety kicks in, are you aware of it to know I need to go, vacuum
absolutely.
things?
No, absolutely. Sometimes it doesn't always work.
Because I always wonder this about.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But like, you can only try your best.
Right. I remember when there's different types of depression, right? And I'm not like, I'm by no means clinically depressed, but I did have a depression, and I don't know if it was called seasonal depression or what, but it was after a breakup. And I wasn't aware of what it was at the time, but in hindsight, it made so much sense. And I had lost like 8 pounds that week, because I ate a lot of food. I'm a bit, and I was just sitting at home. It was the day I moved to New York City, and it sounds stupid to say it was only a week long, but I couldn't fucking move, man. I couldn't. And my mom like called me, and she was like, Dave, get out of bed and go eat something healthy and go like walk outside. And I did, and I didn't feel better that moment, but I kept on just getting the fuck out of bed. And I started people watching, and I remember I had this sandwich at a panini place near Times Square in the Diamond District. So it was like in the 50s on the east side, and I just remember passing through, I think, Times Square, and like there was a street musician playing, and it started to hit me again, and I started to get my joie de vivre back, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll be fine. Like, yeah, I got dumped with, I got broken up with, this is stupid, I didn't get to have the conversation to like win her back, I didn't get any of this shit. She was like, oh, she saw me a week later, oh, Dave, you look good, you lost weight. Yeah, depression, I got depressed. I lost 10 pounds real fast. It's like the universe's way of saying, well, I'll get you back into shape, you can go get laid now.
I lost 30 pounds after this breakup, dude. Yeah, and then my sister said, we'll see if that keeps off when you become happy again. But
happiness and weight is definitely a way of, like, you get happy in a relationship, you're like, I don't need those six packs anymore.
Yeah, it was, especially growing up with food, like East Coast food, and I'm sure Kentucky food, like Southern
Kentucky
food,
food's amazing.
Fried everything.
Like when you have good food, like you meet people out here that have never had a good meatball in their life, and like you don't know what you're missing when you're sad, my friend. You know what I mean? But when you're happy, it is food. Everything tastes good, but when you're sad, only the worst foods for you taste good enough to be like, all right, I'll spend money on this. I'll do this.
Tasha's happiness is directly related to the delivery menu of the closest Thai food place. She'll get, and you don't.
I love food.
She'll literally, if you could like have a barometer for how you could get someone turned on, it wouldn't be me crushing on stage at the fourth wall. It would be me bringing home a box of Thai food. You know when they serve you the box, and when they're just like, it looks like you got fired from your job.
On like an excellent.
She goes, ooh, baby. She just throws the bra off. She does that move with that one arm, and next thing the bra comes through the shirt, and she's getting the fork out, and she's ready to go. And that's love, Tasha. That's love. But we got to get out of here in a second. We're already at almost an hour and a half.
Wow.
So this. I mean, I could probably talk to you all all day, but you'll have to come back and share more as everything progresses.
I got stories, man. I got stories.
But so just to recap, we got you from paving roads to getting a ride in college and then breaking up with your long-term girlfriend, and now you're living the single life. So how has it been? And on a positive, hopefully, maybe it's a positive, maybe not. But how has it been being single? Are you back into the dating world? I mean, it's been 4 months now.
Yeah.
Has it sunk in that you're like?
Oh, it sunk in. Luckily, like I said, I had to find a place to live, and I had no options. And I've stumbled into the best living situation I've had since I've lived here. My friends are very successful people here. Have a guest house in West Hollywood. They're letting me rent that, my own entrance, my own bathroom, in-unit laundry, a kitchen for under $1,000.
Whoa, we gotta come by and party. Ladies. Hey, we got some very attractive female listeners in Los Angeles. So if
ladies, let me know if you like the beard. Let me hear. But no, so I've been living there, and it's right. Like, I'm 500 feet from, like, the Guitar Center, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm right off Sunset,
right on Sunset there, yeah.
So nightlife for me is back. I don't know that I'm ready to necessarily date. Like, I need to work on me before I could tell anyone that they're my girlfriend. Now, would I go out on a date? Would I go have fun with somebody? Yeah, sure. I don't think I even want to consider that yet.
It takes some time. And
I haven't been single for 8 years. I don't need commitment right now. I really don't.
It's nice to get to enjoy working on yourself, because you are not allowed that luxury in a relationship. You're met with distractions all the time.
I'm very happy doing comedy, living in West Hollywood, and going to see my nephew and my sister in San Diego on the weekends. Like, I'm very happy with that. I don't want to date. I don't want to even hint at commitment, because that would just be rude. That being said, sooner than later, I will be back dating, because like I said, I want the biggest family. Yeah. I just
like, this is a great time for you to just get work as hard as you can, not without keeping your mental health and all that, but really focusing on you. And that way, it's
build
almost
my
like
foundation.
It's almost like stocks, right? So like if you want to raise your stock to the highest level, so that when a lady sees it, because it's law of attraction. So if you're attracting weirdos to your life, it's because you're not you personally, but people listen. Oh, why am I dating such a shitty person? You're probably a shitty human too.
Listen,
you know what I mean? You attracted shittiness into you.
I only have one fork, spoon, and knife right now. I'm in no shape to date anyone.
That's enough for Tasha. That's good for Thai food.
If I'm attracting the same kind of person, I'm in trouble. So I'm gonna work on myself as much as I can. If you're going through a breakup out there, I highly recommend, do not rush it. If you're a comedian and you're going through a breakup, do not talk about it on stage for at least a month. That was one thing I learned instantly, that I just
audiences can feel it when you're not ready to talk about it.
Oh yeah, and I have a couple bits about it now, but I still don't even want no
rush there.
It needs time, but you just gotta honest assessment. That is my theme of this podcast, is have an honest assessment of yourself, and if it's not good, you can't overlook it. You can't say, well, I bring this so this can slack a little bit. No, dude, you gotta be that even keel. You gotta be firing on all cylinders.
Well, I'm excited for you, man.
Thanks, man.
I was, whenever I hear of a guy who's recently single, I'm like, I kind of wax poetic. I'm like, what this is, no offense, Tasha, but
go for it.
I tweeted this or something the other day where I was like, bird scooters didn't exist when I was single, and I would love a walk of shame on a bird scooter. Imagine you just wake up in some other part of town. You're in Culver City, and you're like, what the fuck? And you just find a Lime scooter, and you're whipping it home. You fucking don't know where your underwear is. You got crusty balls. And you're just ready to, and you're just going home at 15 miles an hour. The wind's blowing through your hair. You're just happy. You stop at a diner. You get a breakfast sandwich by yourself. I miss those days. I can't. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to those days. I am definitely looking forward to those days.
Call the podcast in next next time you're doing a walk of shame on a bird skin. Let us know. How can people find you? What's the social media? What are you using? And share anything you want to promote.
Ammo Comedy, Instagram. I have a Twitter. I don't really use it. I'm not great at Twitter. I'm really there to watch people be great at Twitter. But you can find me on Instagram. I'm on Comedy and Chaos this Thursday in Reseda. I don't know when the show comes out.
Tomorrow night, the 8th, right? Oh, what's that? Leap day? What's it called? Spring. What's it called with the spring forward? Daylight savings tomorrow.
Yeah.
This comes out tomorrow in daylight savings.
So Comedy and Chaos at Petey's Place in Reseda on Thursday the 12th, and then the Venmo show that Dave was just on will be at the Fourth Wall Cafe, 5220 Hollywood Boulevard this Saturday the 14th. Also Brett Eby's birthday show.
Nice. I should stop by there.
Yeah.
We'll be in town. Yeah.
And Josh Potter's headlining, so come on by.
Fun.
Free show, free booze. We just ask you tip the comics you like on Venmo, so come on out.
So Venmo show, March 14th at the Fourth Wall Cafe. And Josh Potter, past podcast guest, is headlining. You're doing a spot. Brett Eby. That sounds like a fantastic. Any local Los Angeles people, go hit him up and go follow Anthony on Instagram for future show dates and all that jazz. And Tasha, anything you want to promote? Your TikTok?
No, follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Instagram.
Follow Tasha. Go follow her home. And I don't think I've got anything to promote. I'll do my own recap after. But thanks again so much for being on the podcast. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Come back anytime when you record the album. Promote it. Come back on. And all right, that was it. That's the SAP. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.
That's it, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. We could have talked to Anthony for hours. I love having conversations with guys that I just met but became old buddies. Like Anthony we didn't even really know each other that well going into this, and it's always good to get to hear somebody's story. That's what the SAP is all about, getting to the root of people's problems. You see what I did there, folks? Not bad. Again, if you want to donate to us, patreon.com/thesap. You can get access and a lot of value too to probably 50, 60, 70 episodes, 70 hours of content. If you need more, a lot of people like the solo episodes. That's where they are, folks. And they're a lot of fun to do because when I do them on the Patreon, I can add new music. I can play my favorite Taylor Swift songs. We can have a blast. So get on over to the Patreon and check out what I'm doing over there. You won't be disappointed. That's where that all lives. And hopefully we can get the Rodecaster Pro soon. Oh, I'm so excited. I wish they would sponsor it, but they're way too in demand to want to be one of my sponsors. Everyone's trying to get this piece of equipment. And we'll be able to take phone calls, voicemails, fun things like that. Oh, I can't wait. Should I just buy it? Anyone out there with a trust fund? Who's got a good trust fund out there? How about this? If someone wants to buy the Rodecaster Pro, 3 months of soap. How does that sound? Actually, we should probably give you 6 months of soap. We'll give you a lot of soap, okay? If you buy the Rodecaster Pro, we will customize the soap for you guys. Whatever you need, we'll write your poetry, whatever it is, folks. Okay, I'm sounding desperate. Let's go. See you guys next week. Bye, everybody.